Well-calm snow hammered the earth like war drums across the open range. The sky was gunmetal gray, the wind merciless as it swept over the frozen plains. Nothing moved, not man, not beast, not in this kind of cold, except for them. Two wild mustangs, shadows against the white, pressing forward with trembling legs, frost clinging to their coats. They stumbled through the storm toward a tiny, forgotten ranch on the edge of nowhere. Inside the lone cabin, the fire crackled in its stone cradle. A man named Cole sat hunched in an old armchair, coffee cooling beside him, a book open but unread. He hadn't seen another soul in months, not since he'd left the city, the noise, the ghosts. Cole was a Marine once, lost more than he could carry, friends, faith, purpose. Now he lived with silence. It suited him. Then came the knock, not on the door, on his soul. It started with a sound, distant, uneven, hooves, then a thud, and a low, desperate whinny. Cole stood slowly, his German shepherd, Scout, lifting his head from the rug. The man grabbed his coat, the one lined with memories and dust, and opened the door. Snowflakes stung his cheeks. The wind pulled at him like fingers. Then he saw them. Two horses, wild, ice-coated, shaking. One of them limped badly, favoring its right hind leg. The other, taller, older, stood protectively beside it, nostrils flaring in the cold. Their eyes locked with his. Not defiant, not wild, just pleading. Cole didn't move at first, didn't breathe. Something about them cracked through the thick armor he wore inside. He stepped forward. Scout followed, ears up, tail still. "Easy," Cole whispered, unsure if he was speaking to them or himself. The older Mustang didn't flinch when he opened the paddock gate. Instead, it dipped its head slightly, then nudged the younger one forward. The injured horse staggered, almost fell. Cole's breath caught. "All right," he muttered. "Come on." Inside the barn, barely more than old boards and rusted nails, he spread straw, lit the propane heater, and ran back to the house for supplies. Blankets, gauze, a leftover vet kit from Scout's accident last year. His hands remembered the motions, cleaning, wrapping, calming. It was like tending to a wounded brother all over again. That night, he sat in the barn long after the storm settled. Scout beside him, the Mustangs breathing slow, steam rising from their nostrils. He didn't say much, didn't need to. They were here, and that meant something. Morning broke with a sharp blue sky. Snow glistened like crushed diamonds. The storm had passed, but its weight still lingered. Cole stood at the fence, coffee in hand, watching. The older Mustang grazed from the hay he'd spread. The younger, still favoring its leg, lay curled, head up, eyes calm. They'd made it through the night, and so had he. Days passed in quiet rhythm. Cole checked the leg each morning, swapped fresh hay, whispered soft words as he worked. The younger horse, a colt maybe 2 winters old, had stopped flinching when he approached. The mare, because that's what she was, watched every move, but no longer tensed. Scout had taken to lying just outside the paddock, ears up, tail flicking, as if he, too, had taken them in. And Cole? He found himself feeling again. Not joy, exactly. Not yet. But presence. One afternoon, while bandaging the colt's leg, he caught himself humming. A song from deployment days. A song he hadn't dared to sing since Kabul. When he realized it, he froze, then laughed softly. The sound startled even him. Later that night, as he stared into the fire, something shifted in the wind. Scout stood suddenly, ears pricked. Outside, footprints, human ones. He grabbed the rifle from the door, heart pounding, not out of fear, but old instinct. Scout led the way, nose to the snow. The tracks were fresh, weaving between the pines. And then, just beyond the ridge, a woman appeared. Wrapped in a heavy coat, goggles pulled up, face paint from cold. "Dr. Ava Monroe," she said, voice crisp but tired. "I've been tracking a missing pair of Mustangs. GPS colors failed in the storm. We've been searching for days." Cole didn't answer right away. "They found me," he said finally. She looked past him, saw the horses. "Unbelievable," she breathed. "They must have traveled 10 miles in that blizzard." She approached the paddock slowly, cautiously. The mare stepped forward, protective. Ava nodded with understanding. "They're bonded," she said. "Mother and son. If they'd stayed out there another night, he'd have lost the leg, or worse." She turned to Cole. "We need to get them back to the sanctuary. They'll be safe there. Once the colt heals, we can release them to a managed range." He hesitated. He'd been alone so long, the idea of letting them go felt wrong. But he nodded. "Let's figure it out." They worked all night. Cole brought out an old utility sled he'd retrofitted for hauling firewood. Ava rigged a makeshift sling for the colt. They loaded supplies, double-checked the routes. At dawn, they left. The wind was calm now, sun glowing low through the trees. The mare followed the sled closely, never more than a few steps behind. Scout ran ahead, barking once, tail high. Halfway down the pass, snow fell again. Not hard, just enough to whisper that winter hadn't finished its story. They camped in a shallow cave when the path narrowed. Ava shared stories of the sanctuary, of rescued herds and their returns to the wild. Cole listened, and for once let his guard down. "You're good with them," she said as they sat by the fire. He shrugged. "They didn't need much, just someone." "So did you," she replied. By noon the next day, they reached the transfer point. Volunteers greeted them with cheers and blankets. The colt was lifted gently onto the truck. The mare followed without protest. Before the doors closed, Cole approached. The young horse nickered softly. The mare pressed her nose against his palm. "Take care of him," Cole whispered. The doors shut. The truck rolled away. Silence returned. But it wasn't empty. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Photos, updates. The colt was healing. The mare had settled well. Ava invited him to the sanctuary for their release. He stared at the envelope, then folded it and placed it in his coat. Months passed. Cole stood on a ridge above the sanctuary, sun warming his back. Below, 3 Mustangs, mare, colt, and another stallion, ran wild and free, hoofs pounding the earth like thunder. They were home. And, for the first time in years, so was he.